The advancement of the Aegean culture in Greece. Influenced by the Eastern civilizations, the Bronze Age civilization developed around the island of Crete in the Aegean Sea and Mycenae on the mainland of Greece. Around 2000 BC, the Cretans nourished a liberal and dynamic civilization while interacting with people from various regions. The Cretan civilization was destroyed after numerous invasions by the mainland Greeks and several natural disasters. The Mycenaeans occupied the island of Crete and claimed victory in the Trojan War. The Mycenaean civilization was subsequently destroyed by the Dorians, who were equipped with iron weapons. Greece went into a dark age that lasted several centuries after the fall of all the Aegean civilizations.
Was the Trojan War really a war for a golden apple? According to Homer's The Iliad, a record of the Trojan War, the start of the war was due to the goddesses' competition for beauty. Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena quarreled over a golden apple that said, "To the most beautiful goddess," left by the goddess of Discordia, and Paris, the prince of Troy, chose Aphrodite as the owner of the apple. In return, he would have the most beautiful woman as his wife. But the beautiful woman was Helen, wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. Having lost his wife, Menelaus appealed to his brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, to attack Troy. This led to war between Greece and Troy. However, the Trojan War was waged because of the greed of the maritime states to seize the hegemony of the sea. At that time, the kingdom of Mycenae, which wanted to go to the Black Sea through the Aegean Sea, started a war with the abduction of Helen when the path of the Black Sea became an obstacle.
City-states emerge in Greece. Greece had numerous small and large city-states called polis because, with its territory consisting mostly of islands and mountains, it was difficult to establish a unified nation. Beginning in the mid-8th century BC, the Greeks settled in flatlands near the oceans and built castles and fortresses on hills. Within a polis built this way, there was an urban center called the Acropolis, built upon an area of elevated ground with temples, and below the Acropolis there was an agora, where citizens gathered for meetings or commercial trade. The Greeks called themselves Hellenes because even though Greece consisted of a number of poleis, they spoke the same language and shared a strong sense of identity. They built their solidarity by getting together for the Olympic Games that happened once every 4 years in the city of Olympia.
What kind of games were held at the Olympia Games? The Olympic Games began in Olympia, located west of Peloponnesos. From its beginning in 776 BC to 393 AD, it has been opened for over 1,100 years. After Achilles started the games to mourn his friend's death, cities and colonies, such as Sparta and Athens, began to participate. By the 6th century BC, it had become a national festival for the whole of Greece. This is not a simple sporting event, but because it has a strong religious meaning to train one's body and dedicate it to the gods, it was called the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games inspired the national pride of the Greeks and played a major role in uniting them. Races, javelin, discus throwing, a long jump, and wrestling, which were the events of the time, have been handed down to the current Olympic Games.
Development of democratic politics in Athens. Around the 6th century BC, there was a boom of maritime trade in the leading polis named Athens. Some of the common people who were able to build wealth during the boom raised their own armies and participated in wars along with members of the aristocracy, consequently increasing the clout of the common people greatly. It was around this time that an Athenian statesman named Solon allowed some of the wealthy commoners to participate in politics. Then, towards the end of the 6th century BC, Cleisthenes introduced ostracism to forestall the recurrence of tyranny. Athenian democratic politics were at their peak during the reign of Pericles. Pericles eliminated wealth as a requirement to participate in politics and laid the groundwork for a direct democracy centering on an assembly in which citizens could participate. In Athens, however, women, slaves, and foreigners were not allowed to participate in politics.
What were the limits to Pericles' democracy? Pericles is the person who opened the Golden Gate of Athens. He established a direct democracy involving citizens, but Pericles' democratic politics had limitations. First of all, in Athens, suffrage was given only to men with citizenship. Women and children were unable to participate in politics, and while foreigners were also obligated to pay taxes, they were unable to participate in politics. Slaves were unable to participate in politics and had no freedom of residential mobility. In addition, since it was a principle of majority vote, there was no opportunity to correct the opinions of majority if they were wrong. A representative example is Socrates, who was killed by the ochlocracy.
Sparta grows into a military state. Sparta, the capital of a polis created by the Dorians, ruled a great number of occupied dwellers with a small number of its citizens supported by its powerful military forces. Spartan citizens were subject to strict military training in preparation for the revolts by native dwellers. Spartan children were removed from their parents and placed in a rigorous military-style educational system called agoge. Spartan women were also required to maintain athleticism so that they could give birth to healthy babies. Sparta's king and aristocrats were in charge of politics, but important government decisions were made in their assembly.
What does Spartan education mean? About 900 BC, there was a man named Lycurgus in Sparta. He traveled around many countries in order to make Sparta a great city-state, learning the secrets of building a strong country. He came to think that dogs that were made to find and eat food on their own were stronger than dogs that were given food. Returning to Sparta, Lycurgus made several reforms. Among them was the Spartan teaching method. It was similar to a lion dropping its cubs on a hill and raising only the survivors. In accordance with the law set by Lycurgus, in Sparta, a baby was first tested for health. Weak babies were thrown off of Mount Taygetus, and only strong babies were raised. At the age of 7, a baby raised in this way had to enter a military-style educational institution operated by the state and live in a communal style until the age of 60. In order to teach them how to endure pain, educational institutions used severe beatings, prevented them from eating even when they were hungry, and prevented them from wearing warm clothes, even in cold weather. It was also taboo to show emotions easily, and answers were to be short and concise.
The outbreak of the Greco-Persian Wars and Peloponnesian Wars. When Persia advanced to the eastern Mediterranean, Athens helped Ionia to revolt against Persia. Persia suppressed their revolts and attacked Greece, the Greco-Persian Wars. The Poles in Greece united and stopped the Persians, who invaded them 3 times and formed the Delian League in preparation for further invasions. Athens, the leadership polis of the Delian League, monopolized the Mediterranean trade and expanded its influence. Some of the polis that were not happy about this development joined the Peloponnesian League under the leadership of Sparta. The two forces eventually collided in the Peloponnesian War. Sparta claimed victory in the long war, but the battle between the poleis continued. Before long, Greece began to decline until it was occupied by Macedonia in the mid-4th century BC.
Is the story of the soldier who died after delivering the news of the Marathon victory true? In 490 BC, Persian forces landed on the coast of Marathon in northeast Athens to attack it. Although there were few citizens in Athens, they fought a fierce battle with the Persian army and won a great victory. The Athenian soldier Phidippides ran at full speed from the site of the battle to Athens to announce the victory and died immediately after delivering the news of the victory to the citizens. It is said that the marathon race was begun to commemorate this. However, in Herodotus's Histories, it's simply said that he ran 200 kilometers over 2 days and asked Sparta for help. Meanwhile, Iran, a descendant of Persia who lost the marathon battle, does not participate in the marathon.
Development of the human-centric Greek culture. The ancient Greeks believed that gods were just as emotional as humans and also looked like humans. The author Homer introduced the human-like gods and feats of ancient heroes in his books, the Iliad and the Odyssey. To the Greeks, proportion and symmetry were some of the most important principles behind their architecture and sculpture, and Parthenon is considered the embodiment of these principles. During the course of discussing nature and man, the Greeks were able to develop and advance philosophy. While a group of teachers called sophists developed a view of truth as relative, Socrates searched for objective and absolute truths. His philosophy was carried on by his pupils, who included Plato and Aristotle.
Why were the pillars of the Parthenon made curved? The Parthenon is a temple dedicated to Athena, the guardian deity of Athens, and is well balanced and proportional. The pillars of the temple were made to be convex in the middle, so that they looked straight when viewed from a distance.